captured by the Union Army, and so all those territories that were under Union control, they were exempted. The only way we dealt with the rest of them was December the 18th, 1865. The 13th Amendment to the Constitution was finally approved by 3/5 of all the states, except 4 states that refused to ratify it, including the state of Mississippi, which finally ratified it, believe it or not, the 13th Amendment that abolished slavery. Mississippi finally ratified it in 1992. That long.
A few years after
a few years, more than a few years. They held out. Mississippi was, yeah, they held out until 1992. Nevertheless.
Well, they had the president, Jefferson Davis, and you know, during the war.
Well, Mississippi played its role as a neo-Confederate state right up until the end of the 20th century. But the war, of course, did 2 or 3 things. One, as Andrew Johnson of Tennessee, who succeeded Lincoln as president, said, it freed whites in the South as much as it freed blacks.
Explain that. A lot of folks don't seem to understand that.
Well, what Johnson was really saying is, when the war started, 1 million Southerners out of 8 million were very, very poor. They didn't own any land. They had few possessions. They had no slaves, of course. And so when the war ended, it forced a redistribution of the land in the South, whereas only 20% of the people in the South owned slaves. In Tennessee, for example, they owned 57% of the best land. So they were filthy rich. But many Southerners were poor. 80% of them were not slave owners. And so when the war ended, it was much an emancipation of poor whites in the South as it was of blacks. Number 2, of course, it abolished slavery, as you know. And then number 3, of course, it settled the question whether states could succeed. That question was settled by the Civil War. No, because by violence they were brought back into the Union, and so we don't question that too much today. Although in the present movement of some states talking about states' rights and you know, hush-hush about they're going to succeed, interposition, and they're going to succeed from the Union. You know, just a lot of ignorant talk because the Civil War settled that question about whether the Union, once you're in it, you're in it. It's not like a marriage where you can get a divorce and come back in. So it did those 3 major things. It settled the question about secession and the Union. Number 2, it abolished slavery. And then number 3, it ordered a new biracial society in the South, whereas many whites too were liberated by the fact that slavery was abolished in the country.
And so, Dr. Lovett, as we come up to this second commercial, we can really say that the Emancipation Proclamation, as you indicated, not only liberated Africans and eventually the 13th Amendment, not only, but it also liberated a large number of whites as well.
That's correct.
So it was really a liberated movement throughout. But now, another thing that will happen in reference to this, when you talk about the commemoration, is to deal with those efforts on the part of some whites in the South to simply push Africans back into slavery and to deny some of the rights that they had received during the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. Then we'll talk about the commemoration itself. Okay? And of course, we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. The guest is Dr.